This piece of land in particular had this one little strip of rice paddies protected, and the temple owned it. Everyone told me not to buy it, but I figured out with the notaries how to. Because basically the temple owned it, not one individual, so it made it very difficult to purchase the land. So at the end of the day, I ended up getting like 99 signatures to purchase this land.
Welcome to Behind the Stays, a podcast that shares the stories behind your favorite boutique hotels, short-term rentals, and hospitality brands, and the hosts, operators, and entrepreneurs who've brought them to life. Every Tuesday and Friday, you'll meet the military veterans, the retired flight attendants, the tech entrepreneurs, the school teachers, the single moms, the hoteliers, and real estate investors who are all, in their own unique ways, shaping the future of travel and hospitality. Discover how these visionaries from all over the world have built stunning landscape hotels in the mountains, designed bohemian bungalows on the beach, erected eclectic, off-grid, nature-immersed escapes, and so much more. Behind the Stays is brought to you by Journey, a first-of-its-kind loyalty program that brings together an alliance of the world's top independently owned and operated stays and allows travelers to earn points and perks on boutique hotels, vacation rentals, tree houses, ski chalets, glamping experiences, and so much more. And I'm your host, Zach Boozy-Cruz, head of the Journey Alliance. All right, friends, without further ado, enjoy the show. On today's episode of Behind the Stays, you're going to meet a guy who has made a habit of burning the ships, so to speak, and not once, but twice. Josh Jennings went from helping people write on their walls with his first company, Writeyboard, the e-commerce brand that turned boring offices into floor-to-ceiling whiteboards, to designing the kinds of spaces that people dream about escaping to. In his early 30s, sitting on a house in LA and feeling a quarter-life crisis creeping in, he looked at his girlfriend and said, "This year, we're moving to Bali." He sold his house, unwound a decade-long business, and flew halfway across the world to start over in real estate, in a place where the rules, language, and the rhythm of life were completely different. That set off a chain of projects and partnerships that eventually led to Tiba, a Bali-inspired hospitality brand, and now his boldest undertaking yet, a highly designed, nature-immersed resort in the hills of Tennessee that blends luxury, landscape, and a whole lot of soul. In this conversation, we get into how Josh thinks about risk, why he keeps selling everything to chase the next build, and what it actually looks like to try and create the next generation of stays from scratch. All right, friends, without further ado, get ready to meet Josh Jennings. Alrighty, man, we are live. Good sir, Josh, welcome to Behind the Stays. How you doing today, man?
Good, man. I'm excited to be here. Been, a long-time listener, so.
Long-time listener, first-time caller, first-time talker, Right?
Yeah, and then we got connected with the Journey, and that's kind of how this progressed.
Yeah, and I've been a fan of yours for a while. I think I mentioned this to you, Josh, when we first connected, but Writeyboard, is the name of a company that you'd started back in the day. Yeah. And I was like I don't know if I was an early customer, but I was a customer, and I loved the product, and it was just so cool. You could paint freaking whiteboard walls everywhere. Like we did it all over our office. It was sick.
You had the paint or the stick-on material?
I think we had both, depending on in our office space.
So you guys went all out. So you guys were a good customer.
we were. I think we spent a lot of money with you guys, actually. For us, it was a lot of money back in the day, anyways. But yeah, that. And so when I Googled you, that's actually that's the first company I saw that you were associated with. Then I did a little bit of a deeper dive and realized, wow, you ventured off into the hospitality space. So I'm excited to talk to you because you've got your hands in so many different projects. Your latest project in Tennessee is most, I guess, impressive, if you will. It's a big undertaking. So I want to talk all about that.
It's not done yet, so I don't know.
It's not done yet. Yeah, it looks the most impressive from the deck. Okay, let's put it that way. Sure. But dude, I wanted to just get a little bit of your story. So you had a career it seems like a little bit of a serial entrepreneur here, and you've landed in the hospitality sector. Take us back to sort of before Tiba, before you're doing what you're doing now. What were two or three of the core stepping stones that led you to the work that you do in hospitality today?
Yeah, so as you know, I started with the e-commerce business, Writeyboard. We're actually in retail too, so mix of e-commerce and brick and mortar. But yeah, I did that for like 10 years. I always knew I wanted to do real estate, but right out of college, commercial real estate for a year and a half, and then the Writeyboard thing kind of fell on top of me. And decade later, looking up, and I really made the shift with Bali. Bali was the shift to the real estate when I moved to Bali. It happened. I think I was like 30, probably going through like I don't know if you call that a midlife crisis, a quarter life crisis. And I was like, I'm not getting any younger. I had a house at the time in LA. So I saw what the prices were. I was like, I'm sitting on a good amount of cash here. So I looked at my girlfriend, I think it was like 2018 New Year's. I was like, hey, this year we're going to move to Bali. She's like, you serious? I'm like, yeah. So it took me like a year to get everything situated because I still had Writeyboard, had to sell the house, all that. But ended up moving to Bali, and that was the start to like the real estate career, right? Because living in LA, you can't buy a piece of land for $1 million, right? So taking that cash, going to Bali, much more powerful and really gets the needle moving, right? You come there with US dollars. So that was kind of the shift to finally let me down to Tiba.
And talk to me a little bit about why Bali. Like you could have, there are a lot of places you could go. Obviously, Bali was trendy, it was exciting, like still is. But back even in 2019, right? I feel like 2019 was like the year where like more and more of my friends were like saying, "Oh, you got to go to Bali." Like I'm sure it was on other people's radars forever, but it felt like it started peaking in like the 2018, 2019, right before COVID, is where I just heard like more and more people were talking about it as a place to go. Had it been on your radar for a while from an investment opportunity? Was it sort of like this or nothing, or why Bali?
So like you said, it got really popular the past 6-7 years. But I always knew about it. One of my best friends from high school, Australian, but his mom moved to Bali when he was like a young kid. So he spent, I think 5-6 years there living with his mom. His mom still lives there. She's been there, I think 30 years now. But and then he came to America after that stint in Bali for those 6 years. So I always knew about it growing up, and he'd always go there, two times a year. And him and his mom were working on this like architectural brutalism, this really cool looking modern all concrete glass house. So at that point, that was my inspo. I saw what they were building. I was getting a little restless in LA. Just hit 30. I think I was 31 maybe when I made the decision. But you see the path you're going down, and I was like, I don't want to keep going down this path. So Bali is the most opposite crazy path you can go down. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen to go down this path, but I know it's going to be something different than this path, right? So,
and did you go down? Like, was the intention with the shift like, hey, I want to get into real estate investment, or I want to get into hospitality? Okay, because obviously Bali's is that the proper term? Hospitality. Bali's. How do they what I'm trying to say is Bali's or Balisian, however you say it, hospitality, right? It's known. It's highly regarded, right?
Balinese hospitality. Yeah, Balinese.
Thank you. Gosh, these ignorant Americans.
No.
Yeah, Balinese hospitality, right, is world renowned, obviously, right? And so when I think about people who have been progressive on the design front, on the hospitality front, in general, obviously they're sort of at the top of the list. So was the thinking like, hey, I want to do real estate investment, but with a hospitality lens or with a hospitality blanket wrapped around it, or was it? Take us through the story, I guess, of how you progressed.
Initially, so number one, I knew. Yeah, so number one, I knew Bali was, that market is just growing so rapidly. So I knew there was a lot of opportunity there, right? Also, just an amazing place to live, right? Because I knew I had to do it before I had kids, right? You're not going to move halfway across the world with a newborn or something. So I knew I was running out of time, being 31. But yeah, I moved out there just to start building and selling, not hospitality route at all. But
got it. Okay.
Like I said, you can go out there and build a whole building for what you can buy a piece of land here in Los Angeles, right? So that was the main driver. Rapidly growing out there, and also permitting and all that stuff much easier. So you kind of get more momentum out there. Whereas trying to do something here in California, it can take 2 years just to get permits. So like you're not going to get as much turnover building and selling, right?
And had you had experience in design and architecture in building anything? I mean, right, Writeyboard is a e-commerce brand. Doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily translate directly to, you're working with bits as opposed to atoms most of the time, right? Talk to us a little bit about that transition. Like what made you think you could do this?
I was the kind of kid that always grew up building Legos and Connects. I just loved building stuff. And also I grew. My dad was in construction as well, so I kind of grew up around it. Like, we built this amazing treehouse together as a kid. One of my core memories, right? But I just loved always building stuff. So I knew it was like the path that I wanted to go down. But yeah, but no, yeah, really no background in it.
So
I'm
once you,
for that you get into it and then you just figure it out, right? I'm that
yeah.
type.
Exactly. And those make for the best stories and oftentimes the best entrepreneurs, quite frankly. So
100%.
you get down
Yeah.
there, you start buying real estate. At what point in time is the idea of Tiba living born? Like share that story with us.
Yeah, so I get down there, but to get started, I did the first project with my best friend and his mom who lived there. So I learned the ropes for a year with them, building a project, and then I kind of ventured off and started doing my own thing. So my second project was a 9-unit townhome project. I bought this beautiful piece of land in Canggu. Whoever's been there knows Canggu. It's like one of the main areas. Super built up now. No rice paddies, but this piece of land in particular had this one little strip of rice paddies protected, and the temple owned it. Everyone told me not to buy it, but I figured out with the notaries how to. Because basically the temple owned it, not one individual, so it made it very difficult to purchase the land. So at the end of the day, I ended up getting like 99 signatures to purchase this land. So
Jeez.
I like doing things that are difficult, right? Because if someone tells me no, then I want to try to figure it out. So I got told no by multiple notaries, and then we eventually figured it out. But that was my first like solo project. Really beautiful, yeah, just beautiful project right in the heart of everything. But Tiba after that, me and a best friend out there started doing development projects together and kind of made a development company called Tiba. So that's kind of how Tiba was born. So after that project, we kind of partnered up and started doing projects together.
And so where do you think your like design aesthetic came from? Because I mean, your guys' projects are beautiful. I mean, they're stunning. So, and again, it's one thing to grow up around construction, which is great. There's a lot of boring construction out there, right? You clearly have an eye for beautiful, luxurious things. Where do you think that inspiration come from? Was that your business partner? Was that you? Like, talk to us a little bit about, I guess, the design ethos of Tiba Living, because it seems very foundational to what you do.
Yeah, so I think growing up in LA has some of those beautiful architectural masterpieces built here, like just amazing. I mean, obviously very expensive homes, but there's so many amazing homes here in LA. So I'd say that's part of my inspo, but also my partner William. We have very similar tastes. We work well together, but he's amazing at design, so I give more credit to him for sure. But yeah, I mean, having the same design ethos definitely makes it easy. But yeah, out in Bali, I mean, architecture out there, because it's like a melting pot from all around the world, right? You have people from Europe, you have people from Southeast Asia, Australia. And then you have architecture in different places. So you combine all that, you get this amazing architecture. Also with the permitting there, it's very relaxed, right? So you can kind of build whatever you want to build. So I think out there was also amazing inspiration because you can get really creative out there. Like opposed to being here in America, where I think people kind of stick to more refined parameters. Bali just has a lot of amazing. Also with the weather out there, you can kind of do that open outdoor feel, right, with the homes. So I just think there's a lot of amazing inspiration in Bali for sure.
And so you end up building. Was the condo building that you were referring to earlier? Do you end up listing that as a short term rental, or is your short term rental compound, if you will, is that a separate project? Because at some point you can rent these properties on Airbnb. So talk to us about the kind of transition from maybe traditional real estate or traditional longer term condo leases to short term rentals. How did you get into that space?
Yeah, so that building I sold all 8. there was 9. I sold 8. I kept 1 for myself. Right. When I would go back and forth, I would stay there. Otherwise, it was an Airbnb. Um, but the transition, we tried to actually do a hotel out there. But it's difficult to, first of all, you can't get any leverage out there, right? You can't get loans. You can't, no construction loans, nothing like that. So everything you do is all cash deals, which makes it difficult. And then, so we try to raise money out there, but trying to convince Americans that have never been there to send their money halfway across the world, it's just it's a hard pitch. So we quickly realized trying to raise money out there was gonna be difficult. But we actually designed an entire hotel out there.
Wow.
But yeah,
do you still have the designs?
Yeah, I still have it. Yeah. Beautiful hotel. But yeah, so when you see like Tiba now, where I'm at in Tennessee, it's like most people don't see the journey it took to get there, right? So like there's all these, I mean, I wouldn't say failures, but learning and stepping stones to really get to this moment where we're actually gonna be able to pull it off finally, right? So, but yeah.
I'm curious, right? So you're in Bali, you have this successful project, you sell 8 of these 9 condos, you keep 1 for yourself, you list it on Airbnb when you're not there. I think a lot of folks, right, at that juncture would either be like, all right, I'm going to double down as a developer, I'm going to develop more condo buildings here in Bali. You end up coming back to the States at some point, and then you end up getting this vision for what, the project that you're working on today, which sounds like it's an extension of an ethos, or maybe even an extension of a soul that you found in Bali, but in a very different context. So talk to us about how the pieces of that puzzle came together. What you're building in Tennessee now. I want to hear, all about this project, but before we dive into that, tell us the story of leaving Bali, coming back to the States, bringing Tiba with you. Give us the deets there.
So I left Bali because I actually left Bali during COVID. So my girlfriend went home for a bachelorette party. This was, I think, right in the beginning of COVID. So went home for a bachelorette party. Things, actually, everyone knows, escalated very quickly. She got stuck in America. She couldn't come back to Bali. Bali closed their borders. So we were waiting it out. I was in Bali for 3 months. She was in America for 3 months. And then she eventually is like, okay, you got to come home. I'm like, we're not going to keep doing this. I'm like, okay, fine. Me personally, I was great in Bali. They closed the borders. There was no tourist. It was the most chillest I've ever seen Bali, right? All the beaches were empty. So I was great. While everyone in America is fighting over toilet paper, right? So yeah, I flew home because we got separated basically. I went to the airport, I'm not knowing this, but when I got to the airport, I'm checking into my flight and I'm like sweating and like some of the lights are off. I'm the only one there. I'm like, why is the airport so hot? She's like, oh, you're on the last flight, so they shut down the airport. I'm like, what? Well, I go into the airport, it's pitch black. I go to security, I'm the only one. The guys are like, rough playing because like it's basically the last day of school for them, right? So jeez. I go to security and then I see one of those screens. It's like, cancel, and then it's just my flight. So somehow I got on, I'm not making this up, I literally got on the last flight to leave the island. I think they shut it down. I forget what it was, 4 or 5 months. They shut down the airport. So there was no ins or out. So I think there was like 13 people, 14 people on my flight. I purposely let everyone get on. I walk up to the counter. I'm like, am I the last one aboard? They're like, yes. I'm like, okay. So I'm the last person to leave Bali.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So that's how I got back to America, why I went back to America. And then we ended up just staying. Also, like, you're very removed from everyone being out there, right? It's a 24-hour flight. So I think my girlfriend was also just ready to move back. So I got 2 years out of her. She has a big family here and everything. So we ended up moving back and then back to LA. But yeah, I knew I always wanted to do a hotel, right? We tried it in Bali. I knew here you can get leverage, construction loans, and that kind of thing, financing, and then I figured it'd be easier to raise money here for a U.S. based project, right? So that's kind of how it happened. But I mean, the location, I probably sat there staring at a map for a year of just the U.S. map, kind of like, where do I want to put this thing, right? Because there's so many beautiful places in America, and so kind of trying to hone it down is difficult. But literally one Twitter post set me on this rabbit hole of that Tennessee area. And that's kind of how I honed in on it.
And so, talk to us about the project. Like, what is the vision? Where are you guys at? You have a stunning deck, as we were
Yeah.
talking about earlier. You've built things before. You have an incredible sense for of taste, for brand, for design. It's you've got enough in your track record to make people confident. I think in you and in your project. It's still hard to raise money for a hotel project,
Oh,
especially.
trust me, it's
Yeah.
difficult.
Condos are a little different, right, than a true like hospitality asset. So, what was that process like? Like, who did you go to? Like, what was it?
Yeah,
Was
I'm still raising money, but yeah,
yeah,
it's a difficult process. Well, because
yeah,
also hospitality, and not just hospitality, 'cause it's not flagged, right? So, and this niche is considered even more risky, right? So, because it's kind of a newer genre, the landscape hotel, landscape resorts, that kind of thing, So it's a newer category. So I think some people, like investors, don't fully understand it yet. Like, especially when you're showing them the higher ADR and like the higher occupancy, they kind of questioned it, right? But now we have a bunch of amazing examples, a couple of exits in this category that kind of justifies the numbers and the niche. But the actual resort, so I honed in on it basically where it is. It's near Chattanooga, if anyone's familiar, Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is right on the border of Atlanta and Georgia and Tennessee. But I honed in on the area because it's so. First of all, that whole Nashville, as everyone knows, is completely going nuts. I actually moved there 5 months ago for this project. Sold my house again. So
wow.
second time I sold my house for a project. I promised my girl I'm going to stop doing it after this.
This one better work, man. This better work.
This one better work because the house is in there. Now I have a kid, so now I got a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
But you always want to invest in a founder that goes all in, right?
exactly.
I'm always going to have more skin in the game than anyone else will. So
Yeah, you gotta get a roof over your kid's head, man. You gotta get them something to eat. Like you're all in.
yeah, no, I found a cool house in Nashville renting, but yeah, if I don't pull this off, I'll be renting for a long time. But the area, so Nashville is completely the growth in Nashville has been insane the past 5-7 years. Chattanooga, another city right near 40 minutes from the land, also growing. Huntsville, Alabama, big aerospace hub, growing. But really, our location sticks in between five major markets. Not Nashville up top, you have Knoxville. Go down, you have Atlanta, Huntsville, Alabama, and Birmingham, right? So you're right in the middle of five major markets. You're pulling from 12 million people, all within a 2 to 3 hour driving distance. So quick, little, easy getaway. So that's why I was drawn to the area. Growth, accessibility, and then that area where the land is beautiful. All forests, rivers, mountains, just a beautiful area. We have this amazing waterfall 3 minutes literally 3 minutes down the road. So that's kind of why I was drawn to that area. I like I said, I saw that Twitter post and I was just like, okay.
It's a stunning area, and right. I have a few other friends who are building things or have built things in the general vicinity, and
Yeah.
there's just a dearth of high quality hospitality options in those regions, right? Like you've got like a Motel 6, some roadside inns, right? And then you have to go to like Atlanta for like a proper luxury experience. And so and there are some like, stunning cabins in the woods and whatnot, some awesome short-term rentals that have been built there. But in terms of like a true resort or true hotels,
It's not
they're non-existent. And yet there's so much wealth in that area.
Yeah.
And you're right next to these major hubs. It's I mean, at some point it's going to get overcrowded, but like right now it really is like the time to build experiences.
You left an important factor that I left out, but yeah, or you answered an important factor. Yeah, there's not a lot of competition in the area for sure.
Yeah.
In that whole region, really.
I was just gonna say, so give us like the quick overview on like on the resort. So what's the target phase one? Is there a phase two, phase three? Like where are we starting? What's key count looking like? How are you thinking about amenities? Just give us sort of the overview.
Yeah, so I guess the ethos with the gap we're filling is luxury, right? You have the luxury side and then you have the glamping side, but there's nothing really in between, right? Because like glamping, you're mostly tents, not high design. Luxury, everyone knows what luxury is, but we're kind of morphing right in the middle. So you're getting luxury, but you're also immersed in nature, right? So So the count is basically it's 12 units, or sorry, 24 units to start. We're building a 5-acre lake from scratch, which is going to be fun. I'm actually going to be documenting all of this because no one's really at a high level documented building a hotel. So we're going to put a lot of effort into like documenting this entire journey, right? The ups and downs. But I'm excited for the lake portion. So 5-acre lake. These cabins are going to be right on the edge of the lake, right? So you'll walk on your balcony where there'll be a jacuzzi. I mean, you'll literally be able to fish. I think you've seen the renderings. You'll be able to fish from your jacuzzi with a fishing pole in one hand, beer in the other hand. Like that's a happy camper, right? So we'll have 12 around the lake, and then we'll have 12 more going down the stream that kind of runs off. Will be running off the lake. So that will be phase one, and then with a lobby and a restaurant. Where I think is a lot of these like glamping nature type landscape resorts, what they're missing is they don't most of them don't have an F&B program.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I know that's important. The area is kind of remote. I mean, I can't be sending someone to a Waffle House and they're paying $700 a night, right? So we have a partner in Bali who's an amazing restaurant operator. They probably have 15 locations, different types of restaurants. So they'll be helping us with the restaurant component because I'm not an expert in that at all. But really, it's going to be the wellness factor is really nature, right? We're not going to have all this high tech stuff. It's really wellness is nature, right? So that's kind of like the ethos of it. Everyone's going to have their own rowboat, right? Something no one's had. So each unit will come with its own rowboat. You'll just go for a little row out into the lake. I mean, also trails, obviously. I don't know if you're familiar with forest bathing.
I'm not, but it's all the rage now. I keep seeing a lot about it, but I'm like,
saw
what is it
I
like?
love,
You
I
just
love
freaking
that.
like take a bath in the middle of like the woods or something, or what is it?
You're gonna walk down a trail. Imagine you're just walking down a beautiful trail, and then you see this like beautiful like seating area, or maybe a hammock, or whatever. That whatever we're gonna have like kind of different Easter egg almost moments through the trails on the property, right? So you'll go down a trail and see this beautiful sitting area, and then you just sit and just listen to the sounds and just put your phone down and just connect with nature, right? So you're kind of just bathing in nature, just listening to the sounds, the smells, and everything, and just kind of almost in a meditative state.
That's
So
amazing.
that's kind of what forest bathing is. It's a funny name, but
I
it's really
love it.
just sitting in nature.
I love it. I love it. I don't know if you know Samantha Hardcastle or if you've seen any of her stuff. She does a bunch of like hospitality, like consulting work, and her big thing is like really like unique experiences that are like tangential to the actual stay.
Yeah,
Anyway, one of the things that she talks a lot about, she was working on some project. I think it was somewhere in Mexico actually, but she they built like a phone booth like in like nature, and what you would do is you'd go and like you'd like leave. It had like a little like it looked like a like luck. She described it as sort of like this like luxury like phone booth that was like immersed with vines, so it felt like a part of the nature, but it was clearly distinct. And anyways, you go in, it's almost like a podcast studio where there was like a little audio recorder, and you'd leave like a note, like you'd like share just like some inspiration or some like there were prompts too, like answer this prompt like how does this experience make you feel, or have you had any new ideas since being here, and if so, what are
yeah.
they? Or like
Leading questions that make you think.
exactly. And people would record their answers, and then you'd go as like a guest and you could go listen to like past recordings and to record your own. And
That's
she was like,
interesting.
it was just like so baller. It was like such a small thing, but there was something beautiful about the shared communal experience that like all these other people who've been in kind of the similar place maybe had similar sentiments, about the experience. And you kind of felt connected to this like broader community of travelers. Anyways, I thought it was like such a simple idea, but like one that seems pretty
Now that you're
badass.
saying this, she was on your podcast, right? I think I
She
listened to
was,
this episode.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think I heard this episode. Yeah, I thought you were
Yeah.
going to say people were calling Mother Nature.
Or that.
Well,
So
yeah, maybe I throw one of those phone booths in the middle of the forest as an
you
Easter egg.
should, you should just. I love the idea. So here's where I think the big opportunity is for you is you have the opportunity from scratch to kind of do whatever you want, and
Yeah,
also you get to live in this world where you've seen these experiential hospitality projects be built before. It's certainly still really new, but there are a few examples of successful projects to date. But now you get to go and like gamify it, if you will. I think that's and you have to be careful about like how far you take that. But I love your idea of just like how do we hide a bunch of Easter eggs throughout the experience. That's the kind of thing that keeps your guests coming back. There's an incredible property called Missing Hotel in like Marble Falls, Texas, and they have the whole idea is like behind the brand is you go missing, right? Like you go off grid, and it's like
Oh,
this
no, this
whole.
one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They've also been on the show, but one of the things that they do is like there's this secret that you discover, right? Only when you stay there. Like there's a secret that's revealed. And everyone who's like a part of like the Missing Hotel, once you stay at Missing Hotel, like the secret, but like you can't share like you're sworn to secrecy. You can't share it with anyone else. And so there's all this like mystique that's been built up about like what is the secret? Like what am I going to find out when I go missing, right? To the property. And people have done a really good job of like keeping this like moment sacred. Anyways, this is a very long way of saying that it's building the actual asset is one thing, designing a luxurious experience is another. But I think the third and like the next frontier of projects like your own are how do you create these like brand moments, right? That people are going to remember forever, that they're going to come back for, right? How do you surprise and delight with more than just run of the mill amenities, but a telephone booth in the woods where you share your deepest darkest secret, or some special like mysterious gift that you get, and only people that have been here get this particular thing, and it's a secret, and you never know when it's going to come, and it's just that's where I think like the magic of hospitality is born,
For
and I think
sure.
we're living in an era where that magic has never been needed more, right? Like we need surprise, we need anticipation, right? We need physical experiences, and you get to go build those for us, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I stayed at a hotel in Tulum, and every night there'd be a different little surprise, like not just like a piece of chocolate, but like a different, like a little local little art piece of artisan thing, or just whatever. Every night was a different little thing, right? So like I still remember that. So I definitely want to do those kind of little things, right? So like you come into your room at nighttime, and then there's this little surprise waiting for you, right? But yeah, like you said, there's so many little levers you can pull to just like make things out of the ordinary more exciting.
So where do you think, or I guess before I ask you this question, talk to me about where the project is at today. So you're still raising money for the project. Do you
Yeah,
have you bought the land yet? Like talk to us a little
yeah,
bit
yeah.
about. Okay.
So the land is purchased. All the planning phase is done. We're actually everything's in permitting now. Got
Nice.
through the planning phase is just it's not as fun. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's just not as fun. I just want to get a shovel in the ground already. So we got through that phase already. The long tedious planning phase. So yeah, and everything's in permitting. So I think we're ready to probably put a shovel in the ground. Depending on permitting, probably let's say February 1st or somewhere around there. So we're getting close. So pretty excited.
That's amazing, man. And so I want to hear about how I know, you're laser focused on this project now and bringing it to life and, making it everything that you hope it will be and more. But I'm interested, you've got like, you started in Bali, you're now in Tennessee. You've also got a project that we haven't talked about in Mexico.
Yeah.
And you got a property there. How do you see like, how do you see these all related? Are they just stepping stones and a part of your journey? Is there a bigger, greater brand play that you want here? Is Tiba Living going to be some sort of collection that you're envisioning? Are these totally distinct brands? I'm just curious, given how your hands are kind of all over the place right here. How does Josh see these individual experiences, these individual projects as something cohesive, if at all?
Yeah. So Tiba, or sorry, Bali. I mean, I think everything's a stepping stone to get to the next thing, right? You ever heard that speech from Steve Jobs? It was a Stanford alumni speech, but basically
I
talks.
Yeah.
Have you heard it? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, 100%. I don't know what part of the speech you're about to quote, but yes, I have heard that one.
Well, so he talks about these three moments in his life, and then he kind of each moment is this little dot, right? And you don't know what that dot is at the moment, but then later on, when you look back at the dots collectively, you see how they all connect to each other, right? So he talked about
Yeah,
like
yeah.
dropping out of school. I think it's first semester, then took a calligraphy class, which just for fun. And then years later, when they were making the first Macintosh, he had all this knowledge about fonts and all of that, and that's why Macintosh had all these fonts which no computer ever had before, right? And the branding, why its branding was so spot on. So he had that knowledge, but at the time he didn't know what he's going to do with that, right? So that speech reminds me of kind of, I guess, my life, right? It's like Bali, everything which is a stepping stone to kind of get to this moment now. Like the cabin that's on Journey in Big Bear that we have that I built. So when I came back to America, I just decided I needed to build one U.S. project before I kind of jumped to this major project in Tennessee. So that's why I built that cabin. It was a learning process, stepping stone. I think everything in Bali was all learning and stepping stones as well. So I don't know if they necessarily. I guess what I like to do is I tell people I just want to build beautiful things in beautiful places the rest of my life. So like wherever that leads me, I don't think there's. I don't know if it's all connected, but it is connected in a way. But at the time, it wasn't supposed to be connected.
No, but I think like that's what true like artisans, true like craftspeople do, right? Is they follow the next, they follow where their soul is leading them. They go and create something beautiful there. It doesn't have to fit perfectly within some broader like collection strategy or some broader even like business strategy. It's art, right? And it's art that needs to perform right at the same time. And I think like I'm just very impressed by people like you, like yourself, who are willing to kind of take that really, really bold leap, sell everything and go all in. Like
I'm a high risk taker.
but like that's what it takes. And I genuinely believe sometimes like, that's why it works. Like it's the only reason why it works is because of the risk required. I think a lot about, Isaac French, who you probably know or have heard of, and his project in Waco, Live Oak Lake, where, he built this, he bought 5 acres. He built this little lake. And then there were 7 units, I believe, at Live Oak Lake at the time. But Isaac, I think the reason why that project has been laudable in like the greater hospitality, especially the experiential hospitality space, is quite frankly because of his hustle, right? And because of the risk. And I mean, he was obsessed, quite frankly, over every little detail. And he didn't even document it. And like one of the things he talks about all the time to friends and folks is like his biggest regret is like not documenting it. Right?
I've heard him say that. I've heard Ben Wolf say that. That's why I'm like, I'm going to document the shit out of this.
You have to. You got it, man. And I think like, but what is true about folks like Isaac and I think folks like yourself is these are the next generation of stays. These are the sorts of experiences that the next generation of travelers are going to expect, and you're on the front lines of building them. And so in order to build them well, there needs to be a significant amount of risk. You're not just building a boring Hilton or Marriott, right? You're building something truly special. And that's just wildly exciting. What are you like most afraid of right now?
On this project, I would say, I mean, the one thing I'm not familiar with is the lake, right? I'm still getting the bids for that. Like that can go a lot of different directions. So it's a lot of site work. To make a lake waterproof, you have to bring in a bunch of clay, which sometimes soil will have layers of clay that you can use on site. But if you have to bring it all in via truck, it can get pretty expensive. So I haven't gotten a shovel in the ground yet. So I don't know how much clay we have on site. So that could get pricey. Also, Tennessee in general just has a lot of rock underneath. So I don't really know the depth of how much soil we have to work with. And we might have to blast some rock to kind of make the lake, which can also get pricey. It'll be fun for content. Get some dynamite in there and get to blow some stuff up. But it can get a little pricey. But so I'd say that's like probably number one. I'm very confident once we build it that people will come. That saying, build it and they will come. Because I just know we're building something very, very unique and like aesthetically pleasing and just also, yeah. I mean, as developers from Bali, we have, I think, a competitive advantage. We're bringing, I don't know if I touched on this, but we're bringing all the materials, all the finished materials, all the furniture is coming in from Indonesia. So it's really going to tie into our brand story give us materials that most people don't have access to here, and really give the project that authenticity, right? So because we're an Indonesian Bali-inspired brand, but you're also like touching, sitting, feeling materials from Indonesia, right? So I think that's going to give us a really cool, unique spin that most people aren't going to have access to.
You do you know the folks at the Cliffs at all, Christine and Kendall? Have you seen their project?
The
Kimball.
Cliffs, what's that?
So the Cliffs at Hocking Hills. I'll connect you with them because
Oh
if you're
yeah,
not,
yeah. They have the cave, right?
yeah,
No,
they
no,
don't
they
have
have
the
the waterfall. The waterfall.
waterfall. Yeah. But I bring them up because part of their story is like they were like in like Christian ministry. I think Kimball, the husband, was like a youth pastor or something. Anyways,
I,
they sell everything, and or like they go on sabbatical. Quite frankly, they go to Bali, and that's where they fall in love with like hospitality. And so they brought a lot of that ethos back with them to Hocking Hills in Ohio. And when you go to their places, to my understanding, they did not source materials from Bali or anything like that. But you get this Bali inspired vibe, anyways. And the reason I bring them up is they've had to learn a lot about how to work with like natural waterfalls, how to create waterfalls and
I
water
love what they do with
features.
that. It's such
So
a
dude,
delay.
yeah, and you got to talk with them because one of their business partners is like, now I think he's been tapped by a lot of folks who are building things in the space to just help them understand how do you do water features, right? And so, but he might be just an interesting person to talk to get some thoughts on with your lake.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't realize that's that part of the story. They went to Bali. Yeah, I mean Bali is inspirational in so many ways. Even just like the spirituality of Bali, right? Like we want to have that feeling at Tiba, right? I know I touched on the name, but Tiba means to arrive to a destination in Indonesian, which
Wow, yeah,
is fitting for the brand.
it's amazing. I love the name. I was going to ask about it. Where? Talk to me about the fundraising process because I'm always just curious, and several of the folks who are listening to this conversation are probably also curious.
Yeah,
Most of the people tuning in have dreams like you do, and are either maybe a little further along and or are significantly kind of behind where you're at, where they've raised no money, they've never done a project like this before, but they want to. What's been hard about the process? What's been maybe more rewarding and or maybe even easier than you would have expected? Talk to us a little bit about what that process has looked like for you.
yeah. I mean, the fundraising route, right? You always start first, I guess, with friends and family, right? You start with your close network, and then you have to kind of expand outward. So like we've tried a couple, services. LinkedIn's a good source. Connections of connections, right? But I think I waited because I wanted to do a resort for a while, but I knew like I wasn't ready. So I know you have to have that track record. I mean, some people can do it without a track record, but it just makes it something that's difficult even more difficult. So that's kind of why I waited till we kind of racked up a good track record to then go for this big boy project. So I think that makes it easier for sure, having that track record and that experience. But advice is it's like anything. You just got to keep grinding at it because it's a grind. It's not easy. You're gonna have a lot of swings and misses, and maybe 1 out of every 15 you get a hit.
Do you think I'm curious just with your personal take here too, not asking you to like pontificate further than your own experience, but are folks more receptive to this idea of like a third way, if you will, right? So like not a traditional courtyard Marriott development,
Yeah.
not a collection of like vacation rentals in the woods. Like this is the next generation hotel. Have you found in your conversations that folks have an appetite for these maybe slightly alternative hospitality investments?
Yeah.
Is the appetite stronger maybe today than you've heard it has been historically? Like I'm trying to get a sense for, are people more apt to invest in these sorts of projects today, given examples that we have seen, given the Instagram famous stays that have populated, or are we still sort of like very early innings here?
I think we're still early. So the people like us that most people listening to this podcast, right? They know all these stays we're talking about in these properties. but like the average person doesn't really know about landscape resorts or any of these amazing properties. Um, so like when you're talking to investors, yeah, it's still pretty new. And like I think the big money like in VCs and that kind of stuff are starting to awaken to this genre, right? There's been a couple exits to VCs and stuff. Like Ben Wolf had the one exit. So I think they're starting this because the numbers are much better than most traditional hotels. So I think that's going to keep growing, but I think we're still early because
I think,
we're in this little pigeonhole where we think everyone knows about it, but in reality, most people don't really know about this.
no. But what you've done, Josh, which I think is wise, is starting with like a 24 key count, right, or unit count. From my friends who have gone and raised money for projects, that seems to be like the right threshold. A lot of folks want to start smaller. They want to start with like 3 or 5 or 10 even. And from what I've heard is like you're too small, right, for the big guys, but you need too much capital for like people beyond maybe your close family and friends. Like the returns just aren't quite there at that scale. And so everyone that I've heard says like you really do got to be like minimum 20 keys, 20 units. Now there's obviously a lot of variability built in there, but like I've heard time and time again that like that seems to be like the sweet spot for these sorts of projects. So it sounds like you guys are starting with like a really good solid key count,
100%.
which hopefully has made the process a little more stomachable.
No, yeah, you nailed it on the dot. You can't be too small because you're just too small for most of the investors. Also, you need like economy of scale to make it work, right? Especially if you're trying to do the F&B component. Like because originally we thought about just doing 12, right? Build it, operate for a year, then cash refi, pull the cash out, and then take that cash to go build the other 12. But with 12 units, the restaurant doesn't really pencil.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We upped it to 24, and it makes the restaurant component work better.
Well, and that's the other thing I was going to say. I'm glad you brought the restaurant up again. You have to do this. Like people have not been able to. This is like the missing ingredient, and everyone wants to find a way to do this. But like, quite frankly, I think some of our mutual friends now in the space are kind of getting to that point where it's like they're like, dang, like I wish we had F&B, or if we had F&B, we could command higher ADRs, and like
that's why we're doing it, right?
We're just the closest thing to them is a Chick-fil-A, right? And it's like great for a quick drive-through meal, but like you don't want to bring Chick-fil-A back to your beautiful villa, right? Like,
no, when you're trying to give a luxury experience, like you don't like I don't cook, so like I won't want to cook on vacation. I mean, I can barbecue a little bit, but like you want to do that 3 nights in a row, like probably not, right? So I mean, each of these units has a kitchen, so like you have the option if you want to cook. But for a luxury experience, you need F&B, or else you're giving yourself a ceiling without it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think this model, I think you'll have a lot of folks who will look to you to kind of see how this goes, because you're still at like a reasonable key count. It's not like crazy for folks to think about building something like this in like their own part of the world. And if you guys can figure out how to do the F&B well so that it makes sense, both for your guests, but then also just so that it pencils well financially, I think a lot of folks are going to use this as a model, because that people have been waiting. I think I have friends who've like done some pilots with like food trucks and stuff, which I think is a great step.
Thought about that. Yeah, I thought about that.
Yeah.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on it.
It is like putting a Band-Aid. It is like putting a Band-Aid on it. And so, wow, dude, I'm pumped, man. So as we close out here, how can folks help? Like if folks are listening to this conversation, they're inspired by the project, or they want to learn more about it, I can have links to obviously your socials in the show notes below.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go.
I was just gonna say, how should folks get in touch if they want to just follow the journey, if they want to, potentially become a financial supporter of the project? What's the best way for people to reach out?
Yeah, I was just Tiba, Tennessee on Instagram is probably the easiest, and then Tiba Living is our website. But yeah, I haven't started. We're putting up content now, the renders and like cool render videos, and kind of our ethos on there. But the actual like behind the build. We'll probably start like February, start going on there. But yeah, I would just say Tiba, Tennessee is like the quickest, easiest, Instagram. Just follow on there. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna document everything. So I'm excited. We're gonna teach everyone how to build a lake. Because coming from California, you say you're building a lake, they're like, "What are you talking about?" But out here it's a little more normal because they have a lot of water. California, we have water issues. So the concept of building a lake sounds crazy. But you're just digging a hole.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Dig a hole, like put some water in it, or hopefully tap into some water.
We have some spring water on site, so actually, that's one of the reasons we honed in on the land.
That's awesome, man. Well, Josh, I'm super pumped for you, for the team, for this project. I will be following this very closely, of course, and I'm impressed by you and by your boldness. It's one thing to kind of take a big audacious leap once and move to Bali and figure out how to build a condo development, and it's something entirely different to then like move your family to Tennessee to go build this resort from the ground up. Like it's ballsy, man. And yet I think that those are the sorts of projects that like end up bearing the most fruit. High risk, high reward, as they say. So early days, but I'm pumped for you, man.
Pull it off. So right, just got to pull it off.
You will. It might take longer than you want it to, but.
We're definitely gonna have you down there when it opens and we'll do a little pre-launch on the journey.
Yes,
down there.
Yes.
You do a follow-up podcast down there.
Of course, yes, for sure, man. Well, hey,
I'm excited for your journey too, because
thanks, man. That's very kind. Yeah, we've got lots of fun things coming down the pike. So, but Josh, thanks for the time, listeners. Scroll on down to the show notes below. You'll have links to all of the appropriate social accounts. And if you want to learn more about potentially investing in this project or just want an intro to Josh directly, feel free to reach out to me, or I'll also include Josh's contact info in the show notes below. Dude, thanks so much for the time, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Hey friends, thanks for joining us for this episode of Behind the Stays. I'd love to know what you thought of the episode. Feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram at Behind the Stays or send me an email at zach@journey.com. If this is your first time tuning in, it's a pleasure to have you and we hope to have you back again soon. But if you've been a listener for a while, I'd greatly appreciate if you'd subscribe to the show if you aren't already, and then leave us a rating and review of the show wherever you're streaming this podcast. Oh, and if you know a hotelier or a hospitality entrepreneur that's building something new and novel, I invite you to introduce them to me so that my team and I can discuss bringing them on the show. Again, you can just shoot me an email at zach@journey.com or a DM on Instagram. Behind the Scenes is brought to you by Journey, a next-generation loyalty program built for the modern traveler. We're looking to onboard new boutique hotels, unique stays, and the top vacation rental management companies onto our platform every day. If you're a hospitality entrepreneur who has a stay or a collection of stays with soul, we'd love for you to apply to join our alliance at journey.com/alliance. Again, that's journey.com/alliance. Thanks for being here, y'all. We will see you next time.